So here's our last example. This is F. I'm going to encourage you to pause the video, try this problem on your own, and then play to check your work. Okay, so following order of operations, we would start with parentheses or any grouping symbols. I do have in this parentheses 17 plus 12, which would give me 29. So I'm going to bring everything else down. And then since there's only one number left in the parentheses, I'm done with that parentheses step. In this case, I don't have to keep the parentheses as a placeholder, although if you keep it, it doesn't hurt. So then I would move on to my next step, which is to go ahead and evaluate any exponents. And I have several of those. And technically we would do those left to right. So I would start with the 8 squared, get that answer. The next exponent would be this 4 squared, get that answer, copy everything else down, and then finally do the 3 squared. However, I don't need to necessarily copy this 3 times since those are all separate. Separated by addition in this case, we could go ahead and do all of those at once. So 8 squared is 8 times 8, which is 64. But then I'm going to go ahead and copy that whole numerator again. And then 4 squared is 4 times 4, which is 16. 3 squared is 3 times 3, which is 9. So that takes care of all of my exponents. All right, so then the next thing I would do is my multiplication and my division together from left to right. So I'm going to look for any multiplication or division. In this case, I'm really only seeing 2 multiplications. I'm seeing 2 times 29 and 5 times 5. And then technically I'm seeing the big division bar, but I'm going to have to do that last. So I'm going to go ahead and do 2 times 29. If we need to do some side work for that, we can. So that's giving me 58. So then if I bring the rest down, I'm going to have 64 plus 58 minus, and then I'm going to copy down the 5 times 5 plus 3, all of this. And so then my next step is going to be to do the next multiplication, the 5 times 5. So since it is separate, I'm going to go ahead and do that in one step. So 5 times 5 is 25. And then I can bring the rest of this down. And then finally, I'm ready for addition and subtraction, which we do together from left to right. Typically, we say that you do addition and subtraction together from left to right. So like you would do 64 plus 58 first, and then take that answer, and then subtract 25, and then take that answer, and then add 3. And there's nothing wrong with that. Technically, though, addition is commutative. And so if you put the signs with it, then you can also move subtraction around. So for example, if I think of that minus 25 as really plus a negative 25, then this all becomes addition, and addition is commutative, meaning I can do that in any order I want, right? So if you see an easier way to work through it, you can. So I don't know that on this one that I'm seeing like any really super fast mental math strategy for this, although I could certainly probably play around with that. So maybe, for example, I could take 2 off of 64 and add that 2 to the 58, right? So then if I'm adding 64 plus 58, that's really the same thing as adding 62 plus 60. That might be a little easier because that would be 122. Or maybe it would make sense to go ahead and add all your positive numbers first. So like 122 plus 3 is 125. And then I've added this one and this one and this one. And now all I have to do is subtract 25 or add the negative 25. So if I were to subtract, I get 100. So however you see to do that, but just realize that once it's all addition, you can technically do it in any order. And then my denominator here, 16 plus 9, should give me 25. And then the last thing I would do is just divide those. So this is really the same thing as 100 divided by 25, which is 4.